Turning to international news now, and thousands of people, including tourists in campsites, have been evacuated from the Var region of southern France due to wildfires. The fire department has described the blaze this morning as very fierce and said 750 firefighters are trying to quell the flames. The south of France, Italy and Spain have all been hit by a heat wave recently, with the mercury rising close to 50 degrees in some places. To test the temperature, we're joined by three journalists from those three countries. First, let's speak with Elaine Cobb, CBS News correspondent in France. Elaine, what's the latest with those wildfires?
Good morning. It's a forest fires that have started, and it's partly due to the heat wave in the area. So more than 4,000 hectares are blazing still, and firefighters have evacuated thousands of people, as you said, including tourists, which is a preventive measure because they just don't want it to hit any of the homes or campsites in the area. It's a very popular tourist destination, and of course with COVID there are so many French people holidaying at home.
How hot has it actually been?
Well, the south has had very strong temperatures this summer, and sometimes going as high as 40 degrees. But the rest of the country, while temperatures have remained vaguely normal, this in fact has been a dreadful summer for the top 2/3 of the country, if you will, largely because of torrential rain. And even on days when it's been warm, when the temperatures are high, it's been grey and stormy. And so people feel like it's been a terrible summer. The torrential rain has been insane. There are places where they've had 246% more rain than usual. So that has led to this feeling of not much good weather at all.
And how abnormal is that type of pattern in France during summer?
Well, they're saying that this is very much a sign of global warming, because normally summers here are bright and sunny and very little rain. Usually it's a drought rather than floods. And so there's a lot of concern of what this really means overall for the country. The last several years it has been hot, so it's also quite a shock when it stops being so hot. And a big thing that's been happening that the experts say is very much a sign of climate warming is that it can go very quickly from a day of 15 degrees to 29 degrees the next day. And it's that kind of shock of change that not only affects people but animals and land. And for example, the weather this year has destroyed 30% of the wine production, it's predicted, because there was frost in April, there was torrential rain May and June, and now they're just concerned that the wine production, unless the weather improves, is wiped out 30%.
And is that the conversation that people are having on the street? Obviously, we were looking earlier on this month at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, and it was saying that climate change is happening everywhere in every region. It's happening with more intensity and it's happening with more speed. Is that what people are ascribing it to, saying this is clearly what's going on?
Yes, the message of climate change is very strong in France in general, and there is an understanding that what is happening is part of a greater picture, and that when it's going on this long, it's just not a blip.
That's Elaine Cobb, CBS News correspondent in France. We're now moving to Tenerife, where we're joined by Irish journalist Cliona O'Flynn. Cliona, I believe tomorrow you're expecting the hottest day in Tenerife for a generation.
Well, the Canary Islands are the only part of Spain that continue in red alert for high temperatures. We've had the hottest day in Spain so far about 3 days ago in Murcia. It was at just over 46 degrees. And in fact, there were 26 different regions of Spain that were above 45 degrees last Saturday. So it is a bit hot, Paul. I mean, it's already 33 degrees here, and it's same time as it is in Ireland. So it's a heat wave we've been living through since Friday. Luckily, the Canary Islands, they're small islands. Most of the people who are here are close to the sea, and a lot of them are on holidays, so they're probably not suffering too much or worried too much. But like many regions, they should be abiding by the precautionary advice that comes from local government, which is stay indoors during the high temperature parts of the day, so between 12 and 2, drink lots of water and keep an eye on the elderly and the young, but it's hot.
What about water shortages?
We're okay at the moment. I mean, the Canary Islands, these are funny islands in a sense. We have no rivers, we have very little rainfall, but the islands, because they know that, they have provision. There's desalination plants all over the islands, and we have water galleries that come from our volcanic mountains, which stores water throughout the year. So it hasn't been an issue here in the Canary Islands. The big worry that happens during heatwave alerts are forest fires. Now, there have been some small outbreaks on the islands, but nothing that has really been headline news. The only big forest fire of worry is in Avila, in the Spanish mainland in the peninsula, and that at the moment has burnt more than 12,000 hectares of land, and there have been, I think, 12 villages already evacuated, but so far those forest fires are not affecting tourist destinations.
We just heard from Elaine Cobb in Paris there that the conversation on the streets is people are saying, well, this is evidence of climate change. Would that be the same thing where you are?
In general, people kind of almost shrug their shoulders and say, yes, it is, unfortunately. I mean, there was an expert report a couple of days ago that said the temperatures we're experiencing today will feel cold in 30 years' time, because they feel that these kind of high temperatures are going to become the norm as climate change evolves and as we have to get used to weather extremes. Again, because of where we are in the Canary Islands, we're so near the equator that one of the bonuses has been that we have enjoyed more temperate climates than, say, parts of the Spanish Peninsula. We don't get as hot as it gets there, and we certainly don't get as cold as it gets there in the winter. This could either mean that in years to come the Canary Islands will see this as a bonus for tourism, or we will be overrun by climate extremes. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed and hope that the latter isn't the case.
Clín O'Flynn in Tenerife, thanks very much for joining us. We're now moving to Italy, and Irina Suava, a journalist with the Corriere della Sera newspaper in Italy. Irina, Italy is still in the grip of what I believe is called the Lucifer weather front.
Hello, Paul. We are still in the grip of the heat wave, but today is the very much it's a long-awaited for so-called Cool Tuesday, because many cities today, including Milan, where I'm currently, are registering sensibly less worrying temperatures. Last week has been an absolute nightmare. And last week, that's been a real emergency with this heat wave. People were sick. I myself was sick, and it was very unprecedented and very discussed, and very much publicly discussed.
We were hearing that there were temperatures of 50 degrees Celsius, which seems unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that's Sicily, and Sicily has both a very, very warm climate. It's it's very southwards, and a very, very risky urban landscape, because in Sicilian cities you have lots of urbanizations and a very small amount of trees, which usually lower temperatures. But yes, Sicily has been close to 50 degrees, which is very symbolic number, which prompted many newspapers, including mine, to sort of imagine what will happen if and when Italy is close to 50 degrees on a regular basis. Corriere della Sera, where I work, has done a sort of dystopian but very well documented research on what would happen if that would be the new normal. And well, that's scary.
It certainly is. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That was Irina Suai, a journalist with Corriere della Sera newspaper in Italy.